here in Chiapas, there are 3 cities that I would say are potential retirement or long-term spots: Tuxtla Gutierrez, San Cristobal, and Comitán. All 3 cities are relatively close together, but surprisingly so very different from each other. And today we're gonna look at the pros and cons of living in Comitán, by far the smallest and sleepiest of the 3 Chiapanecan cities. So Comitán, formerly Comitán de Domínguez, which prior to Belisario Domínguez coming to Comitán was called Comitán de los Flores because it was well known for the tropical flowers that are native to Comitán. And prior to that, Comitán was called Balún Canún, which apparently means the place of the 9 stars. Now, similar to San Cris, Comitán is also a pueblo mágico because it's preserved a lot of its original cultures, both the original indigenous cultures, as well as, of course, some of the Spanish influence. Comitán is 5,000 feet above sea level and has really wonderful year-round temperatures from 49 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, rarely below 44 degrees and rarely higher than 91 degrees, almost exactly between San Cristobal and Guatemala. It's about 2 hours away from San Cris and an hour and a half away from Guatemala, 3 hours away from the nearest airport found in Tuxtla Gutierrez. It's a small town of about 113,000 people with a very, very small expat group, so small that in the times that I visited, I have really not noticed a lot of foreigners. Again, this is a pueblo mágico, so it does draw in tourists. Those tourists seem to be mostly from other parts of Mexico. And looking through Facebook, I'm not able to find a Facebook expat group. There is one US YouTuber that I know who used to live in Comitán for a decent amount of time, Miles and Coffee. She has since moved to La Paz. My experience with Comitán has been predominantly the Zócalo, the center area, and further north. I have not really explored too much of southern Comitán, but it does seem like the more touristy spots are definitely further north of the city. Comitán is probably a great place to immerse yourself in the Spanish language and the Mexican culture. In that respect, I think it might be an amazing place to live. Now, there are 2 main draws for people going to Comitán, aside from the fact that it is in fact a pueblo mágico. The number one is it's a really great place to stop en route to Guatemala. So instead of driving 3.5 hours from San Cris, going all the way to Guatemala, spending the night in Comitán makes perfect sense because then you only have an hour and a half left. So it's a really great place to just pause, take a break before continuing your travels. But also, Comitán has a lot of natural wonders and a lot of tourist attractions nearby, which granted you could go to from San Cris, but going to those locations from San Cris really just means longer driving time, which nobody likes. Whereas if you spent a couple of days in Comitán, you could more quickly visit these tourist spots without spending so much time in the car. The 3 most popular places is probably El Chiflón, which is a series of several waterfalls going up this mountain about 1 billion steps. Apparently the only place to swim is at the bottom of all of the waterfalls, so walk up to the top, enjoy the different waterfalls, zip line down or walk back down, whichever route, and then enjoy a swim. Yeah, I can't wait for the swim part. Now, El Chiflón is about 45 minutes south of Comitán, but if I go towards the east for about an hour, I can hit the Lagos Montebellos, a beautiful lake right on the Guatemala border with so many beautiful colors. And if I go a little over an hour, kind of southeast, again, on the Guatemala border, there I can find Lagos Colón, which is another amazing lake to visit. And while those 3 are probably the most popular tourist attractions, there are also cenotes, there are other waterfalls, as well as some archaeological sites. So it's a really ideally situated city for visiting all of these places. Even if you choose not to live in Comitán, highly recommend you spend some time there so that you can visit not only the very tranquil city, but all of these amazing wonders around it. Now, in the city of Comitán itself, I would say the highlight of the city is honestly the ambiance and the very chill vibe. In fact, probably my favorite activity is hanging around the Zócalo, hanging around the center. Taking Instagram photos and people watching. I often say that Comitán reminds me a little bit of the show Gilmore Girls because they put a lot of thought and effort into how they decorate the Zocalo, how they decorate the city center. The first time we went was back in February after Valentine's Day, and I was really surprised to see all the pink and all the hearts throughout the city. Like, it felt like they were definitely still celebrating Valentine's Day, but then going back in late March, I realized hearts are just a thing that Comitán loves. And so in March, they again had a lot of heart-related elements, but this time with different flowers, different colors coming off of the Zocalo. One of the streets going to this beautiful church was lined with these very colorful umbrellas. That's definitely my favorite street just to walk down and enjoy. But then another street made like a tunnel, if you will, of these heart-shaped arches in the Zocalo itself. Again, in addition to just the plethora of hearts and flowers everywhere. They had a sign that said 2022 all decorated. They had another one that of course said Comitán all decorated. And I believe it was Thursday night that they created a little stage for some marimba music for the evening, hanging out in the Zocalo and seeing what the city was doing was in and of itself my favorite activity within the town, aside from, of course, just walking around the city and getting to know it. Their artisan market as well as their mercados are much smaller than what you'll find in San Cris, but they have half the population, so that makes perfect sense. And while there are also several beautiful iglesias as well as many museums that I think are absolutely worth a visit, and Alex and I had fun. Okay, Alex might not call it fun. Walking up to the Mirador of Comitán, it had a great view of the city, so I definitely enjoyed walking up. Alex enjoyed the scenery. Just not so much the walking up the hills. I will note that the vendors in Comitán are a lot less aggressive than those found here in San Cris. Here in San Cris, people will hover a little longer, they will repeat themselves a little more frequently. Over in Comitán, I felt like a lot of the vendors were waiting for me to notice them before they said anything, so there really wasn't the shoving of products in my face, which I really appreciated. And I feel like, I don't want to make this as a blanket statement, but I do feel like the fruits and vegetables found in the mercados in Comitán seemed maybe just a little more fresh. Again, not to knock the ones I find in San Cris. Obviously, I enjoy the fruits and veggies here as well, but Comitán, there was something extra when it came to their fruits and veggies, but especially the local cuisine I enjoyed in Comitán distinctly more than here in San Cris. Now, when I say local cuisine, I am talking about, of course, the Chiapanecan food. Here in San Cris, I find that Chiapanecan food is actually not quite as prevalent. I find a lot more cuisines from Oaxaca, Mexico, from the Yucatan, from Mexico City. Like there is Mexican food here, but in terms of kind of the Chiapanecan food, I'm not noticing quite as many here, and the ones I do notice are not necessarily to my liking. Now, when I say Chiapanecan, I am referring to like the San Cris proper, which tends to be a lot more floral than I personally prefer. Comitán had a lot more pickled varieties. They had pickled carrots, pickled beets, which I found went really well with all of their dishes. Their tacos, which I think is more accurately described as tacos dorados, so it's more of a roll. The wrap used for that was less tortilla in my opinion and a little more on the bread side, so it had a little more kind of bite to it. They had some type of chile sauce that was slightly spicy, but really just, I don't know, flavorful and amazing, and I loved it. So with the combination of the chili sauce or the barbacoa sauce mixed with the pickled vegetables, I just really enjoyed eating there.
Are you eating my food?
No. Are you eating my food?
My favorite breakfast was definitely at Tenochte Bistro Cafe, which is right on the Zocalo. I got eggs, kind of similar to huevos rancheros, except instead of the normal ranchero sauce, they used a pumpkin seed sauce, which was this green color, something that I've seen on papazules over in the Yucatan. But in addition to kind of that creamy pumpkin seed flavor, they added some lime flavoring to it, which I absolutely adored. The green sauce is like a pumpkin seed sauce, but they've added a lot of like lime to it to give it this sour like yumminess.
So now it's super.
And so now it's super. And what I'll say about the food from Comitán is, unlike San Cris and even Merida, where a lot of the local dishes are actually brought to you without the salsa added, they instead give you a little dish with various salsas to choose from. Over in Comitán, that was not the case. The spices, the limes, any vegetables that they thought would go well with the dish was already added to the dish, which may or may not be something that you enjoy, but I honestly really enjoyed it. And so it was almost like they were serving the dish to me as it was intended to be eaten and not really giving me the chance to add or not add extra flavorings. So again, while this might be a negative, Alex was at first very concerned getting his omelet because it had all this extra sauce on it, but ultimately, once he tasted it, he really enjoyed it. I had a much better local food experience in Comitán than I've had so far here in San Cris. Definitely eat the local food. That being said, unlike San Cris, Comitán did not have as many international restaurants and international options. San Cris has a plethora of foods to choose, of Asian cuisines, Italian cuisines. We have French bakeries. Like, we just have a variety of options to choose from. Whereas Comitán, it seems to have predominantly local foods. Again, that being said, we saw a Subway, I know they have Domino's, we visited the Italian coffee company, so they do have international companies, but it's definitely by far predominantly local foods, which means when it comes to your going out budget, you're probably going to save a lot of money in comparison to going out here in San Cris. And Comitán also has at least one Walmart, one Chedraui, one Soriana. It has a Cinépolis movie theater and a Sam's Club, and a Liverpool, which I believe is open, although on Google Maps it said it was temporarily closed. Similar to San Cris, Comitán does not have Uber, but they do have taxis and of course an OCC bus station. OCC is like a sister company to ADO, so you're able to purchase their tickets on the ADO website. Getting from San Cris to Comitán costs an average of 65 pesos. And of course there are several tour companies that can take you to all the sightseeing locations near Comitán. Now, from a single mom perspective, I will say that I've noticed a lack of playgrounds, which is something I actually noticed here in San Cris as well. We just don't have that many outdoor playgrounds, especially public outdoor playgrounds. Comitán seemed to be the same case. I didn't find any playgrounds, although in several restaurants you do find several small play areas really intended for smaller children. So Alex was a little big for those locations. He's still young at heart. So yeah, I did not notice any actual playgrounds, especially for older kids. And because I'm not aware of the Facebook groups or the expat communities, Comitán would be a place that would be harder to integrate into for families. Although the more patient you are, and certainly the more comfortable you are with Spanish, ultimately you'll be able to tap into a community. It just might not be quite as quickly as you can tap into a community here in San Cris or other larger cities. I just don't see that much appeal for especially older children and teenagers. There's just a lot less to do in Comitán than in San Cris or certainly larger cities like Tuxtla. That being said, for solo travelers or retirees, Comitán is a really lovely place to visit. I could see it as a lovely place to retire, especially if you're looking for a slower pace of life. San Cris in particular, I would say, has kind of an undercurrent of energy, an undercurrent of activity that could take away from a slower lifestyle if that's what you're looking for. And in the small town of Comitán, there are 5 government hospitals and 5 private hospitals. I'm not entirely sure what services they might provide, but nevertheless, there are hospitals for you, as well as several private clinics and pharmacies. So general healthcare will definitely be covered in Comitán. And my Airbnb in particular had decent internet when it came to, let's say, streaming Netflix or going on Google. But when it came to uploading YouTube videos, it was distinctly slower, such that I couldn't upload a single video. And so I would imagine things like Zoom calls would also be much slower. I'm sure there are other parts of Comitán where you might be able to get better internet. So it's going to be really dependent on the Airbnb or the particular location you're at. And of course, if I were staying long term, I would absolutely call whatever internet companies are available to see if I can get a better service. But at least for the Airbnb that I was at, not the best for uploading videos. YouTuber Miles and Coffee, one of the reasons she gave for leaving Comitán and going to La Paz is for better internet service. And so, yeah, Overall, the city probably doesn't have quite the internet infrastructure that San Cris or other larger cities might have. Speaking of YouTube, I wanted to say a quick thank you to all of my subscribers, both those who have recently subscribed, as well as, of course, those who have been subscribers for the last 2.5 years. Yes, that's how long I've been on YouTube. And so if you're not aware, recently on March 30th, I reached 900 subscribers. Actually, by the time I posted, I had 926 subscribers. I was super excited and super stoked and couldn't help but celebrate. After making that post, I left to do some errands. When I came back 2 hours later, I was basically at 1,000 subscribers, and I had never gotten that many subscribers in such a short period of time. Looking through the comments and researching a little bit, I realized that Jordan from Tangerine Travels actually gave my channel a shout out, which was mind-boggling. It was honestly the best possible way to reach that milestone, and I'm overwhelmed with the amount of support you guys have shown me, and I'm happy to report that because I already had the required 4,000 watch hours, I am officially, as of yesterday, monetized. Very, very cool. Thank you so much. And to celebrate, I thought a giveaway was in order to honor the way I was able to get 1,000 subscribers with help not only from Jordan from Tangerine Travels, but also from Asia Arrow, who has on multiple occasions given my channel a shout out. Karen from Mom on a Journey. She has always been such an amazing supporter and friend, not only on YouTube, but in real life, as well as Amoya Shante, who especially when she was doing Single Moms Do, definitely contributed to the growth of my channel. I've had so much help from not only these amazing YouTubers, but from all of the amazing viewers out there. Thank you again so much. And so to enter this giveaway, there are 2 very important actions required. Number 1 is to do something kind for someone. I do not care who you help. I do not care how you help them. The details are irrelevant. And when you're done doing it, step 2 will be to comment below in this video. You can just comment something simple like you're done, or if you feel a desire to share what you did, you can share that in the comments as well. But either way, letting me know that you have completed a kind service for somebody else will win you an entry into this giveaway. And on April 15th, I'll use a randomizer program that can kind of collect all the comments I receive in this particular video. And whoever wins, I will send you $50 via PayPal. Why $50? Because 1,000 US dollars is way past my budget, but 1,000 pesos, $50 US, is within my budget to share this month. So again, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments below when you're done with your kind act for somebody else, and you will be entered to win, and I will let you know via the comments below whomever that winner is. So stay tuned on April 15th for that announcement. Now, getting back to Comitán, I will say one of my son's major complaints, aside from the internet not being quite ideal, is
The streets go up and down. We just walked downhill and the hill's going back up again. Lots of hills.
Comitán, especially on the northern half, was just filled with so many hills that we had to walk up and down. They were relatively short hills, so aside from, of course, hiking up the Mirador, we did not notice any major hills, but yeah, lots and lots of up and down going on hills as we explored the cities. So as you might know, this is not our favorite thing to do, but the weather was really nice. So at the end of the day, I was cool with it, but if you are not a fan of hills, Comitán may not be the place for you. And another thing to note is the people of Comitán was super friendly. It almost reminded me of the friendliness I found in Merida. And a lot of establishment owners were really curious about where we came from. Again, I did not really see very many foreigners in Comitán, and so I think the curiosity was just high. Like, who are these people? Where do they come from? And why are they here? Were questions I got asked multiple times, all in a very friendly manner. And like I said before, the vendors, a lot less pushy than those found here in San Cris. So yeah. Overall, very friendly vibe. Comitán also felt very safe, which, as you know, I've been following kind of the Spanish-speaking news here in San Cris when it comes to staying safe. I really haven't heard anything negative at all over in Comitán, so I would imagine it's a much more stress-free and calm environment to live in. I would say cost-wise, it was really similar to what I find here in San Cris, although the cost of Airbnbs were definitely lower, and so I imagine the cost of rent in general is probably less expensive in Comitán as compared to San Cris, which definitely makes sense. And even though it's hotter in Comitán than in San Cris, it wasn't so hot that it took away from our ability to walk around the town and explore. And so personally, I didn't have to use a taxi, although there were definitely taxis available if I decided there were too many hills to conquer. And at night, I found, similar to Merida, that we didn't need any heavy blankets. We were fine with a sheet or like a light blanket. So again, distinctly warmer than San Cris, but not as hot as Merida. Or Tuxtla for that matter. So in conclusion, I really enjoyed Comitán, but ultimately I don't know enough about the expat community and I don't really see an appeal for Alex or children in general. I think it might be a great place for solo travelers or retirees who don't need quite as much diversion to keep the family entertained. But yeah, single mom, probably not the place I would want to be, especially if this is the first place you're looking at for Mexico. I would recommend a place that's a little more expat friendly to help you get acclimated to the country, the language, to the customs, before you try living in a place like Comitán, where you're definitely gonna have to know some Spanish, and there's just not as much activity within the city to necessarily keep families entertained. I absolutely plan on coming to Comitán again. It's a great hub for all the things to do around it, and I'm a fan of the slow-paced life, and so taking a break from San Cris, which is arguably also on the slower side of life when compared to most of the US, going to Comitán was definitely a nice break with delicious food and just amazing people to meet. As a single mom, when it comes to Chiapas, San Cris, or even Tuxtla would probably be a better place to start because there's more things to do, there's more of an expat community, and there are more conveniences to help out with your day-to-day life. If you are tapped into a family community or an expat community in Comitán, I would love to know more about that in the comments below, so definitely let me know that information. But again, thank you guys so much for your amazing support here on my channel. And don't forget, go out there, do something kind for somebody, and let me know in the comments below when you're done. And on April 15th, I will let you know who the lucky winner is.